season. New show, new folks, new reasons. New level, so you know we going up. Start with the old, so you know we cleaning. We gleaning, brand new story. Got a podcast, come talk with Tori. Got you fiending, new stories. New podcast, come and talk with Tori.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Tori Talks. I have a special guest with me today, Mr. James Gilford III. How are you?
I'm doing well, Miss Housing. How are you doing?
I'm great. So grateful that you decided to join me today so we
hmm
can talk about a very interesting subject. Um, so I want to give the people a little bit background information. I met James, oh, how many years? 6 years, maybe?
2000, yeah, 2018, 19. Something like
Okay, yeah, about that time. And we met kind of organically. It wasn't like online or anything like that. I think he was pretty new to the city of New Orleans, and we were just hanging out. I think I was with some friends. Were you alone? I think you were
that. I was
alone.
by myself, lone wolf.
Yeah, he was alone. And so we just struck up conversation, and 5 years later, we're still cool.
hmm
But I wanted to talk about like your and experiences of dating as a Christian man, right? And
hmm
so I guess my first main question is, how is it dating in these days versus back, when you first began dating as a Christian man? Like, um would you call it difficult or some challenges? How would you describe dating today?
Sure. So, if we look back like in the 1990s, let's first say early 1990s, when you would meet a young lady, and there were rules to it, right? And you would introduce yourself, ask her for a phone number. They didn't have iPhones back then. You know, I only think the Sidekick was out. You had flip phones. So you would ask your lady for a number, she would give it to you, and you guys would have a conversation. Everything was much more simpler then. It wasn't a lot of noise. It wasn't a high level of expectations, all these requirements. You got to go here, travel here, eat here. I mean, it was more organic than just spending time with someone. Um, in today's time, that's changed. You see a lot of entitlement on the male and female side of people wanting and desiring things that are, I believe, most of them are unrealistic and non-sustainable. But people still want them. They still desire those things. So it's very different. Very, I call it, Sodom and Gomorrah these days. Like it's just
Mm-hmm.
there's no rules. Everything's wide open, and so it's very challenging when you're trying to be a good person and trying to find another organic person to to be equally yoked with and grow. It's very challenging.
Yeah. So you talked about some some expectations, and some may be like unrealistic expectations. What are
Sure.
some unrealistic expectations that you've encountered, like when dating a female, that they may have told you that they were expecting from you?
Oh man. So again, it goes back to a long time ago. It's more organic. You didn't have requirements. So what are examples? If I meet a young lady, the first thing is about attraction. Don't get me wrong. I mean, attraction is very important, but um, there is a want and need to make attraction the priority. To say, hey, man, if you don't look like this, if you're not this tall,
Mm-hmm.
or if you don't make me feel like this when we have a conversation, then I'm not interested, right? So it starts really on the surface, but then it comes down to, can we have a conversation? And most of the time, it's not. Most of the time, it's like, hey, well, we can go out to dinner somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, I don't have a problem with that, but I just met you, right? Like, I have no problem. I like to eat. But there are requirements on just time. Like when I meet young ladies, if I just want their time just to vet them so they can vet me, it's as if in so many ways you have to pay for that time. And that's really the biggest thing. So between the expectation of payment during time, whether it's dinner or drinks of some sort, which is fine in some cases. But the biggest thing is that superficialness, the superficial act of attraction. But can you see beyond what a person looks like and get to their core of who they are? And that's just something that most people, most women don't do. I don't think so.
So on your end, what do you think is or was an unrealistic expectation that you've asked of a woman?
There was a period of time where I thought love was, man, doing everything I want. Like, whether it's, you know, I need you. Can you cook something for me? Can you go pick something up? Can we be intimate when I want? Like, it was always on my program. And when I met women that gave me all those things, to me that meant love. But as I've become older and wiser, that has nothing to do with love. I mean, you can have lust and infatuation and all those things, but the real expectation of love is, can a person support you and be there for you and challenge you when required? Can they ask you the right questions and push you to be a better person instead of just being a yes woman? And that's really the biggest expectation that I had, was that superficialness of do what James Cook the third wants, instead of being a teammate and a partner and an asset to me to help me be a better man.
Yeah. Yeah, that's important too. Um, I want to ask this question, but I don't, and if it's too personal for you, then you can say that. Um, how do you think, because I know, a little bit about you, right? But how do you think that your past relationships that may not have ended so well has shaped you and your thinking and wanting another relationship after that one?
That's a really good question. So, it's really how you deal. I mean, everyone has been hurt at some point in time, right? But it's really how you deal with it. So you can either take that energy and say, you know, let me vet myself and look at the things I could have done better, number one. But number two, you have to do the appropriate healing. Because if you don't heal, then your heart and your mind will never be open to another person.
Mm-hmm.
But the tertiary thing is understanding your triggers. So if you've been hurt and you hear the same things from another person, the automatic, you're automatically gonna like either shut down, you're gonna react, you're gonna say and do something. So you have to be conscious of those triggers and say, okay, I heard this before. This is a different situation. Let me keep my emotions in check.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you can do all those things, you can heal properly, deal with your trauma, do self assessment, understand your triggers. I think you can grow as a person, gain wisdom, so you don't make the same choices with selection.
Yeah. How and they just started cutting grass again outside or whatever, the pressure washing the sidewalk. I don't know what they're doing. But how do you think um before that question, do you think that true love exists?
I do, but I think that true love isn't what people think it is. I mean, I think from movies and books, people, people look at true love as this emotion. When you see someone, you just feel all these things. When you talk to them, they make you feel a certain kind of way. That's not true love. That's lust and infatuation and a
Mm-hmm.
different type of love. Um, True love is built over time, right? So you look at the Bible, going back to, love is patience, love is kind, all those things. Like, True love is having that mutual respect for one another. And don't get me wrong, there has to be an attraction and a vibe going on, but it's not your foundation. So when you look at our parents and people that have been married all these years, um, they have put that time and effort and sacrifice, and that's how you build that connection, that cable tow with someone of
Mm-hmm.
agape love, and
Mm-hmm.
that's what true love really is. It's unconditional, and most people don't have unconditional love. The wind blows the wrong way, they disappear. They'll block you. Yeah, so
That's true.
to answer your question, I think I answered the question. Did I answer it?
Yeah, yeah. Um, that was the second part to that. So you gave us your definition of true love.
Hmm.
Um, let's see. I'm trying to think which way to go. Has James, um, or is James open? Wait, before I do that, you're single, right?
Yeah, I'm not married and I'm not engaged. I'm a single man. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I mean. Um, is James open to finding true love? And how will James go about doing that?
Well, I think it's knowing what to look for in a person. That's the first thing. Like most of the reasons people go through the trauma and toxic relationships is because they look for the wrong things. So for a man, can you look past those pretty lips and that pretty face and that figure and say, okay, let's sit down and have a conversation. Look that person in the eye and say, like, what do you want out of life? What makes you happy? What makes you tick? Like, what do you see yourself, not financially and all that stuff, but what do you see yourself mentally and emotionally 5 years from now? Well, when you start asking those kind of questions and kind of digging deep into a person's core, it opens the door to have the chance of saying, okay, this is something I want in my life. This is something I see in my life that I can deal with on a daily basis. And so I'm definitely open to that. But that comes with a very selfless, humble mindset. And it's very hard to to meet these days. Of course, if a man comes out, I'm like, hey, I work here, I make this kind of money. Girls like, ooh, they'll do whatever, right?
Right.
But can they do that when they don't know anything about you, face face front, and that's the big difference.
That's why I
So yeah,
asked that because I know that, today's timing with dating is very difficult to find true love. Like you might like a
mhm,
person for a few days, a few weeks, a few months, but
right,
yeah, but you really like people move on so quick. I think it's because social media and like it's just so easy to go find somebody else with the internet and everything. And so they jump from one thing to the next so easily without like really taking time out with one person and making it
hmm,
work. But that's why I asked that. Yeah.
yeah. I call it the upgrade theory, like because a young lady can beat her face up, do a headshot and post a pic, and she's getting 12 DMs, 20,
Yeah.
30, right?
Yeah.
Or do a full body pic and be like, oh, I wish I was at the beach. Oh, I'll take you to the beach. Where you want to go, right? I mean, guys are hitting women up left and right, and what it does, it doesn't allow people to stand still. It doesn't promote a mindset of let me stand still and work on myself, work on my peace, and get to know someone. It's like if you don't do what I want you to do, I'll go over here and get it from somewhere else
Yeah.
or try to.
Or try to, right. And then 3 months later, then they call you back. The high value
Yeah,
man.
exactly. I mean, because most people, yeah, because most people can't afford it. I mean, guys, and that's a whole new separate conversation. Money, right? Most guys, and we talk about this all the time. What's the average salary in this country? $52,000. So that's the average salary in this whole country. So you look at African Americans, like we're below that. So you're talking about a man who's doing well. I mean, most men aren't doing that. So that man who's not doing well, that guy who falls in that 99 percentile, who's not making that much, he's going to do whatever he can to get that woman. He's going to
Yeah.
say, "I'm gonna buy you this. I'll take you here." He has to imprint on her up front because he can't play the long game.
Yeah.
So if that's what women are used to, they're used to that. Every time they meet a man, they're like, "Well, why aren't you doing this for me? Like, why aren't you taking me here?" So guys of value of like, "I'm not doing that." Like, for what?
Mm-hmm.
Different thought process.
Yeah. If this conversation reminds me of, and I know you've seen it before on social media with the young lady with the date. I think they were going to, can't think of the restaurant, Cheesecake Factory.
But Cheesecake Factory or something.
Yeah. What would
Yeah,
your response be to someone like that?
I thought about that. I mean, you would have had to see the flags. There's no way you're gonna get to that point in that restaurant and not see any even small flags prior to that. Um, I'm the type of man, if I take a young lady out, I'm taking her out for the experience. We're gonna have a good time. But just how she's pre-screening me, I'm pre-screening her as well. This isn't a done deal just because you're pretty
Hmm.
or whatever. And had that happened to me, that would have been her, like the last supper for her. Like she would have never seen me again. So it would have been like, hey, enjoy your meal. Good luck on the streets. And we would never talk.
Yeah. Yeah. But at least you would have given her that at least. Um, but
Yeah,
I
and
think
if I
I
would have
think we're
talked to
talking
her, I
about
would have said, yeah,
two different ones though. I think the one
okay,
you're
give me the
talking
other one.
about, they the one you're speaking of, they were actually at the restaurant and she slurped
Hmm.
down with the 3 dozens of the oysters or
Yeah,
something. Yeah, but
something like that.
I'm talking about the one where the girl and the guy, they were in the car and the girl didn't know where they were going until they pulled up to
Hmm.
the restaurant. And she was like, "You're
Hmm.
taking me to Cheesecake Factory? I don't go here. I go places like XYZ."
Man, I'll tell you, had that happened to me, I would have asked her, like, what do you want to go eat? And if she told me if it was an expensive place, and this our first date? I'm like, we're
Yeah.
not going there. So if we can't figure it out, I would drop her off at home. That would have been it. And she can get one of those 99 percentile that makes that 50 KLS to take her out and do something. That's fine.
So, what is an ideal, or what should be, not necessarily your ideal first date, but what should be like a first date for two individuals who are just meeting?
Um, I think you have to keep it simple. Like I think, man, it really goes back to what you want. You know what I mean? I mean, everybody wants a white picket fence. Everybody wants to get married and have the experiences, but like, what are you really looking for in a person? And I think that's what a man and woman have to ask themselves
Hmm.
is like, what do you really
Yeah.
want? I think, and once you determine that, I think you put yourselves in situations to find that out first before
Hmm.
intimacy has occurs. Because once intimacy has occurred, that's it. I mean, you're locked in, at least for a period of time. So I think that you put yourself in a situation. You go to places that are calm, they're peaceful. I mean, I'm a strong supporter. You go to someone's house, sit on the patio. Go, say, hey, I'll come to your crib or drink some tea. I'll sit on your patio, listen to some music, and talk. That's simple. I mean, most people are so scary that they want to go out in public. And that's fine too. You can go to a park or a coffee shop, but you don't want to be inebriated, right? You want to be in your right mind. You want to be in a good space. And then once you figure out, okay, this is a good person, they have the core qualities that I want out of a person. Okay, now we can go for a drink. Now we can
Hmm.
invest time in eating together and building that bond. But it should not be, again, that's something you should have to pay for up front, without
Yeah.
even knowing the person or if that's what you want.
Do you think there are some conversations that are like 100% off limits in that first meeting? I mean, because we've already had conversations before actually first meeting,
Mm-hmm.
but like for myself, I like to wait until I actually meet the person and go on our first date before I
Mm-hmm.
ask certain questions. But are there some things that you think are like totally off limits for that first meeting?
I think the quicker you can get to where you need to get to is that's my thing. Like, so if we have to talk about it and do a variation of things. We can have a phone conversations. We can meet in person. I think you have to do it all. Like, you can't limit yourself because every situation is different.
Yeah.
And if you're connected with the right person intellectually and via conversation, I mean, you can have a 1 hour conversation on the phone with a guy that's better than 10 dates when you go out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what you talk about and the depth, right? But the items that are very, very similar, I mean, very sensitive, you can wait and save those, right? You can, the stuff that you want to look a person in the eye, have those conversations. You can say, hey, let's just table this one for later, that topic.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
But yeah, but I can talk about whatever. It doesn't, I don't have anything, I don't have anything to hide, so whatever. It doesn't mean you have something to hide. It's just, I'm just open because I mean, bad news doesn't get better with time, right? So we might as well get it out the way now. So.
Yeah, that's true. Um, Let me see. Was there anything in particular that you want to talk about?
Uh, no, not really. I think that I guess the question I have, this is coming from, you know, I know this is your show, but I guess I can flip the script on you a little
You
bit.
relocated.
Yeah. So, what is your opinion as a Christian woman? Because I know you're a good Christian woman that works in the church. Um, what is your opinion on the expectations and the reality of those expectations that women have these days?
Honestly, I don't think. Of course, I'm not speaking for all women, but
Sure.
the majority of what I see, I think women's expectations are they're not godly. Um, and they have like no substance to whatever they're expecting. Um,
Hmm.
and and that's the reality. It's and so I think if women would center themselves more in God, in the word of God, then we can truly understand like where we belong. Belong is not really the word I want to
Hmm.
use, but like where we fit in and what we're supposed to do according to God's word. And so I
So
think,
they so develop discernment. Yeah, I got you.
yeah, um, like a lot of times as like online, and I try to limit my online interactions because it's just not it's not real. But but
Hmm.
um but when I see it online, I'm like, do women really think this? And do
They
men really
do.
think
Yeah.
that we think this? you
Hmm.
know? And it's disheartening and frustrating
Hmm.
because even though, how can I put this? Even though men want a good Christian woman for the most part, they go and get whatever they can get because that's what's easy. And it leaves women like myself feeling like, well, goodness, maybe I should act like them other women. But in reality, at the end
Hmm.
of the day, I'm like, no, I'm not lowering my standards. No, I'm not gonna do this just to have someone for the time being. Like I want a forever love. So I'm not going to
Yeah,
lower my standards for a 5-minute love.
I completely understand. I think that if you think about what everything that you're saying, And it's such a this is such a complex conversation because most men, it's a difference between the market value of sex versus the market value of a wife.
Mm-hmm.
And most women, they promote sexiness, like everything's about sexy and their figures and the emulation of their body. And most men make decisions and understand that that's it's probably gonna be nothing else but sex. Like you're
Yeah.
not wife material, and that's a blessing and a curse. But it's a blessing because a man who's not serious about finding a wife, let him go find that. Right? A
Yeah.
guy who doesn't have the discernment or the wisdom to say this is the type of woman I need in my life, that's not the man for you, right? Because that
Yeah.
man's gonna make those same mistakes, if not worse, at a later time. So
Exactly.
that man that you do desire, he's gonna see your heart, who you are as a woman, and he's gonna cherish that. And at the minimum, he's gonna stay in your life for a period of time because you're a good person.
Yeah.
That's at the minimum. I mean, even if it doesn't work out romantically. And that's another thing too. Is like when people date, like it goes up and down. And I think a lot of times people think that it's like this trajectory of success, and that's not. Man, look, you fall, you get up, you
Yeah.
stumble, you get up, and but the end is when you can have that organic agape love. It's unconditional, and those type of people will stay in your life and support you, and that's what you want. And then if it turns into something, great. If not, that at least you know a good person in your life. So,
Yeah.
any more
Um,
questions, Mr. Park?
I'm thinking.
Yeah, I
um,
had notes. You sent me a list. We didn't even go over none of that
I
stuff.
did.
No,
I
wait.
did. I sent you a nice list, but the list it
You
wasn't.
did.
Once you put on the music, it wasn't what I wanted to go into. So
The music I have in the background.
yeah, like it's much more
Can you hear my
relaxing
music?
than yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna turn that off then. I'm gonna turn that off then. Like I want to get into it. I'm not trying to mess up the conversation because of the music. Yeah, we're gonna do that. Let's go ahead and
No,
mute this music real quick.
I like the music. Um, so how do you think, or do you think that your education, because you're highly educated as well, do you think that your education plays a role in some of the decisions you make with relationships?
So I have a different take on education, right? I mean, most people they have like these track records. They go to school, they they get a certain degree, they work in that degree field. I don't necessarily believe that. I think that the main reason to go to school, the universities and collegiate institutions, they train your brain to think differently, to conceptualize
Mm-hmm.
information differently, and to have a different sort of thought process. And I think that's what really gives people an advantage. It's not so much about a degree as it is about the ability to have critical thinking skills. And that's what universities teach you.
Mm-hmm.
So when I've gone to school, I've always tried to push myself mentally as much as I can. And that's a blessing and a curse because now when I meet a woman, she actually has to have a decent conversation. Like she has to be able to hold, even on the surface, just a basic conversation with me. And that's challenging. So I think education plays a huge role in that aspect because I think even for yourself, I mean, you have to be able to sit down when you wake up beside that person. You want to be able to talk to them, even about
Yeah.
basic things, and not feel like, okay, I can't even talk to this person. And I think education and intellect has a huge part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about your career? Like how has
What
that
about
been
it?
a hindrance at all with your dating?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I did 20 years in the United States Navy. I lived in. 9 different locations throughout the U.S. and deployed. So, in order to really promote success in any relationship, you have to be in one place. So, if you're moving every 2 or 3 years, I mean, even at a long distance, you're not really giving it a chance to flourish to build that foundation. So, up until last year when I retired, I mean, that's what I was doing. I was moving all the time, and it was fun meeting different people. But a lot of times when you meet a woman, she's not trying to move; she's trying to stay where she is. So you have to get to that point of trust and love for that conversation to even happen. And I just never had I was never given or afforded the opportunity of time to really make that work. So in the past, I think it was a huge hindrance.
So now you shouldn't have that problem.
Well, now we're dating Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Here it is.
Anything goes.
I'm dating as a Christian. I mean, look, I'm dating as a Christian. Most of the women who meet me think I'm boring, so it's just different.
Why do you think that you're boring?
I think that if you look at what society shows people, like what love is and what excitement is, you don't see people. What's that movie with Obama and his wife Michelle? I can't remember what it's called
What's the
when they
movie?
met each other. Yeah, it's
Oh,
like a
yeah,
movie came out
yeah.
with Obama.
I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, okay.
I didn't even watch that movie, right? I didn't even watch it, and that's just because we're so far removed from the development of what real love is and what it's supposed to
Yeah.
look like that most of what people see is like fast money, having fun, traveling, eating. It's always how can I say it? Entertainment of some sort. Like relationships have to be entertaining in order to be fun.
Uh,
So when you're not entertaining up front, they automatically assume that, oh, you must be boring because you're not trying to sell it to me. But
yeah.
that's the difference between having wisdom and discernment versus you know the foxtrot Baracco guys out there. Trying to get in.
Ha- have you ever invited a woman that you were trying to get to know to like Bible study or church service?
Um, I think there were times in my life where I would invite women to church service. It's been a long time. Um, and that's just because I take my relationship with God very seriously. And I haven't met a woman who takes it just as serious. So if I found a woman
Hmm.
who had a good relationship with God, had her own relationship with God, I would definitely want to share that experience with her in the house of the Lord. Even if it didn't work out romantically, it's good for Christians to be around each other. But again, I haven't found that. Most people they play church.
So th- this might sound weird. So I've invited a couple of guys like to a church service,
Hmm.
whether it was Bible study or a Sunday service. And like I think my purpose in doing that was to see their seriousness with having a relationship with God, you know? And if they
Sure.
didn't show up, then I wouldn't, I would just discontinue the conversations. Like if they wouldn't show up and not even say why they didn't show up, like they just try to disregard the invitation and their fact of not showing up. But if they said, "Oh, I can't make it because XYZ," then that's totally different, and I would totally respect that. But if they just didn't show up and didn't even say anything afterwards, then I would just discontinue, um, having any further conversation with them. Is that crazy? Do you
You
think?
know, that's really smart. I think the only advice I would have is you can figure out a person's, or at least have a snapshot of a person's relationship with God before you even ask them to church. You can ask them, do they believe in God and
Hmm.
why? You know,
Hmm.
what's your relationship? Do you read the Bible? Do you ever pray? Um, when last time you've been to church? When you go to church, like, what's your purpose of going? So you can ask a series of questions
Yeah,
and they'll tell you exactly
and
like
I've
you can
done
say,
that
okay,
as
this
well.
person is not really serious. No. Or you can have a great conversation about the word. Like, man, we're going to church. Because they can talk about it, and they can talk about it, speak on it intelligently, and relate to it with the foundation that you have. You can discern that very easily. So that's what I would do. I just want to invite those knuckleheads
Yeah.
to church, ask them those questions.
Yeah. Um, Let me see. What else did I have? Oh, I did post this question in the little chat that we had. Um, if a woman felt that you were not leading properly, would you want to be taught? And how would you like her to communicate that to you?
I don't think I would ever have. Well, I'm not gonna say that because everybody goes through things in life, right? So let's say I'm trying to think of a way of something that would happen to me where I wasn't leading properly. Um, Man, let's say a death happened in the family, and I was mourning, and I went through, kind of a depression of some sort. It's possible, right? Um, and let's say, I wasn't doing the things that I need to do as a man. Like I wasn't taking care of my business at home, financially, physically. I wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't doing anything. I was just laying around the house. But some men do that. Some men are just logs, right? And a woman came to me and said, James, like, you need to get some help. It's, what is she
Mm-hmm.
gonna say? Is she gonna shame me and say, you were sorry, man, and you blah blah blah, or is she gonna be like, look, baby, I know you're going through something. We need to get you some help so you can fix it. So if a man is a real man, he's gonna welcome that help. He's gonna be like, baby, you're right. Something's not right with me. What do we need to do? Like, help me. That's what a helpmate does. Now again, everyone
Mm-hmm.
falls, but can you pick each other back up? And can you be
Mm-hmm.
receptive and be humble and have the humility to say, I have a problem, I have an issue, help me. And that's on both sides for that man and woman, because you're going to go through that continuously throughout life. So hopefully it never gets to that point to where he's not a good leader. Hopefully it gets to the point where, hey, we need to fix some things so we can stay on this track.
Yeah. I asked that question. I saw that on Facebook posted earlier this week. And I was like, that's a good podcast question. So
Mm. Yeah, leadership is created. In order to be a great leader, you have to be a great follower. Like you have to learn and
mm-hmm.
humble yourself and be open to growth. Um, so usually people who are leaders, they make mistakes like everyone else, but the great ones are able to reflect and assess and say, I made a mistake. I won't do that again. And I want to be a better person. You keep learning.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a favorite Bible scripture? If so, what is it?
I have two. I have Philippians 4 and 13. Right. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And then I have Psalms 37. Fret not thyself of evildoers, neither be thou envious against workers of iniquity. It's very long. It's very long. But
Mm-hmm.
those are my two.
Okay. Good. Good. Um, so every podcast episode, I do something called this or that. And so I'm giving you two options, and you have to pick one of the two in a rapid response. So the first
Okay.
one,
Is this yet?
um,
Does this mean yes and that means no?
no, it's just like, what would you rather? Would you rather A or
Okay.
B?
Okay, let's do it. I'm ready.
Um, so slippers or barefoot in the house?
Barefoot.
I thought you were slippers.
No, look, I sweep my house. I have hardwood floors, so I mean, if it's cold, I'll wear slippers. But
Okay.
in the house in New Orleans, it's all hardwood, so I just wear socks or barefooted.
Okay. Um, Marvin Sapp or Kirk Franklin?
I'll go Marvin Sapp.
Fried fish or grilled fish?
Fried fish.
You- Wait, you're allergic to seafood, aren't you?
No, I'm not. I'm
Oh,
not allergic to anything but liver. I don't like liver. I eat everything, baby.
I thought you were allergic to seafood. Um,
Mm-mm.
okay, that's three. Um, what else? Water or soda?
Water.
Hot tea or coffee?
Depends.
No, you have to pick one.
I would do hot too.
That's what you're drinking now, right?
Yeah, because you can't drink coffee all the time. Tea you can drink anytime you want.
Yeah. Okay,
It's
well
better
that
for you. Yeah.
yes it is. Well, that's all that I have. Is there anything that you want to say before I let you go?
No, I mean it's been great. Hopefully, I said some things that people can relate to, that can talk about. Um, yeah, so people can be happier and live a better life. So,
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this episode with my friend James and see y'all soon. Bye.
mm.
Hey, y'all. Tori Talks here. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to Tori Talks wherever you get your podcasts: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you want to talk about a certain subject, email me, tori.talks9@gmail.com. Tori.talks9@gmail.com. Let's talk about it.